So markets ended up going higher just like we thought, but they did throw a big wick to the downside first. Interesting. So you have a low, lower low. Now we're hitting some resistance here, but we got above some of these short-term metrics. Interesting price action here today. Let's take a look at all of the charts and see if we can find some market direction. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. Moving over to Fear and Greed at a 50. Yesterday was a 49. I think it was actually a 50, so basically unchanged. You can see it here on the timeline. Sideways choppy really since the 15th, really haven't moved. Still greed on momentum, still extreme fear on strength and breadth. Neither of these showing any strength, and this breadth continuing to trend lower is definitely concerning. Put call ratio still going higher. Volatility also trending a little bit higher. Safe haven demand still in greed, and then junk bonds still not moving. So really the same metrics we've been seeing. Definitely some cracks here with the put call ratio and volatility going higher and breadth staying low, but price action still hanging in there and momentum is still okay. Moving over to seasonality just for a moment, you can see this is still a bearish period, expected to be bearish here for the next 2 days. Tomorrow, pretty bearish, sideways flat from yesterday to today, which makes sense, but tomorrow, very bearish. Next day, also quite bearish there into the Thursday, and then that's the low for the month, and you start to see some rallies into the end of the month. We'll see how it plays out. Right now, seems like a possibility, but we haven't seen that second dip low here yet. Moving over to earnings here, you can see just about everybody did well, beating on the top and bottom lines. Everything's good there. Don't forget NVIDIA tomorrow after hours, Palo Alto as well, and then Target. NVIDIA had a good day today. We'll see if they can deliver on earnings tomorrow and then into it for Thursday, and that'll pretty much wrap it up for this earnings season. Moving over to the economic calendar, not much here for today. Atlanta Fed GDP actually came in a little better, didn't really affect markets a whole lot. For tomorrow, not much either, crude inventories. But for Thursday, we do have a fair amount of things. Existing home sales, Philly Fed, manufacturing, as well as initial jobless claims. Not a whole lot of data, but should be fairly interesting for the Thursday. Moving over to Max Pain, 589. I think that's $1 lower, but we're right at it here through the end of the week pretty much. You can see slightly bearish through the end of this week and into the Monday, but basically unchanged, just $1 lower. Interesting to see, really not a lot of fluctuation based on the NVIDIA earnings. I think that's going to move markets a little bit. Like I said, 589 for tomorrow, 589 through the end of the week. Monday, still 589, and then we see a slight bump into the Tuesday, and then it gets really bearish out here, 3.5% for mid-December. Moving over to the charts, you can see we are still within this same structure here. We ended up getting that bounce off that 21 EMA. It did dip a little bit lower in the pre-market like we saw on the intro. We'll look at it in a second here, but we hit that 21 EMA pretty hard, dipped well below it, touched the low from the Friday session, and then rallied pretty strong, 0.37 right up to the trend line here. Now, after hours, we're up a smidgen. Need to see it get above here and push if it's going to get a continuation. Certainly a possibility here. You can extend out this trend line here right to that top from the Tuesday the 12th session. If we do get the continuation, that could give you a price target up in the 607.80 area. That would be interesting. Momentum didn't go with it. Momentum still stepping down. RSI right at the SMA. We're going to get that retest probably tomorrow. We'll see if it rejects from there, if it breaks out, and then we can get the retest continuation. Overall, still looks pretty good. Stronger up day than I would have expected, but we did hit that critical zone. You can see that here on the hourly chart, hitting that 55 EMA, pushed right through it, pushed right through the 200, right to the trend line, rejected from there. We're holding up after hours. Momentum fading a little bit. RSI says this should have at least another push. Near-term target would be that 144 EMA at 593.72. If this level breaks here at 591.40, and then if that breaks, then you're looking at 599.64, which is the high of this previous consolidation level. So critical trend here, above it, obviously bullish. If we reject from it, obviously bearish. If we reject, your support is going to be 585.90, and then if that breaks, 579.87 is my next level. Moving over to the Tasty charts, really no change to the thesis here from yesterday either. The 144 was your support, and that was at 584.57, touched that level, overthrew it, hit the lowest ATR band, and then rallied up. Now your target here on the 4-hour chart would be that trailing stop at 592.79, which is pretty much in line with what we just talked about. And then if that breaks, then you're looking for this upper ATR band on the 4-hour, which would be 596.79. So again, pretty much in line with what we were seeing here. So you have a base, looking for that continuation up, Looks like a very similar setup to this with a base, dip low, continuation higher. If we do get that rocket ship here, it's certainly possible to see one of those kind of acceleration overthrow style moves that would get you kind of up into that 609, 607 area that we just talked about for that trend resistance on the previous charts. Moving over to the NASDAQ here on the daily chart, you can see big up candle, 0.69, right to that trend line here. Pretty much the same setup as the SPY charts. Dipped low, didn't go quite as low on the NASDAQ. We'll look at it in a second, but we hit the trend. Now we're waiting to see if we get a break here back to that 9 EMA. That is currently up at 508.39, pretty much in line with the trend here. 508.26, somewhere in there. Then we'll see if we can get the push to the next one, 511.75. Momentum, not going with it. RSI the same as the SPY, waiting for that retest. And then looking at that hourly chart, it looks even better here. You can see double bottom, hit that same key level, pushed right through this kind of midpoint here, right to the trend line. Again, after hours, holding those gains. Need to see it get above that 200 and hold. Right now, that 200 is sitting at 503.85. It's at my level, 503.52. The trend is also right there, so you can see consolidation of resistance levels. But right now, this is looking pretty good for a continuation up to this trend here, 508.20, 144 EMA right there as well, 508.25. Moving over to the NASDAQ here on the Tasty charts here, you can see I took a position pretty much at the end of the day, looking for a retest of that ATR trailing stop, 505.55. And then again, if we break through here, I'd be looking for a test of that upper ATR band that's at 510.62. So I think we could get a little bit more of a swing here, similar setup to this, where you got to push right into this consolidation, got a big acceleration out of there, push much higher. Obviously, this was off the back of the election, so who knows if we're going to get that kind of a move, but this is a higher low setup now off of this previous low. Based on that, you should get a higher high, which would take us potentially up into the 520 area. So certainly some potential, might take a little bit of time for that to play out. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell did end up making some gains, but look at the low of the day, all the way down at 226.40, broke VWAP, broke the 21, almost hit my level, 226.02. If it touched that level and bounced, that would have been a perfect play here, but big gap down, rallied throughout the session, closed on the high, broke back through the 229.18 level, up more, looking for 223. Everything says this should get a little bit more, at least up to that 232.02 level. And then the trend just behind it, 232.75. Momentum and RSI, really no change to the thesis there. Either way, though, this looks like a high, low, higher low now. And then looking at the Dow, similar drop, gap down, touched VWAP, touched the trend almost perfectly. Momentum still fading, RSI broke down here, but then we rallied up off of that level, getting back above 432. So if this holds here, get a continuation, that would be a higher low setup, and then we should be looking for a push back to the trend here around 446.26. Moving over to the Mag 7, I added this channel here. You have to respect it now with a low, higher low setup. Good push, 1.4%. It's above the 9 EMA. Momentum should step with it. RSI back above the SMA here, which would give you a near-term target of around 315, maybe a little higher, 316.50, somewhere in here. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple once again finding some gains, 0.11, almost hit the target at 230.28, came up just a little short, 230.16, missed it by 10 cents. You could argue it's a touch, maybe my level's a little bit off, maybe I should lower it a little bit, but either way, momentum bullish, RSI still looking good, should still have a little bit more strength. It's above all the EMAs and SMAs once again, falling just a smidgen after hours. And then looking at Microsoft here, you can see up candle there as well, about 0.5%. Stop right at the trend line here. If it gets the continuation, should push to 421, somewhere in there, and then the next level, 424. Again, still in this consolidation, hasn't done anything. Seems like we're holding this level once again, still trading between 413.36 and that 429 area. So sideways choppy, same region. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, both of these going higher today, 2.14 and 4.89%. Big move on NVIDIA, big head fake there as well. Gap down, doji, gap up, big rally, push through all these levels, looking for that 149.65 level. It's back into this range. So if this range continues to hold, your target would be this upper area here around 157, 158, somewhere in there. Strong push. It's up after hours, closed on the highs of the day. Everything looks good. And then Tesla did push to this trend, but it continues to struggle in this area. Momentum flat, RSI basically flat, overbought. So this doesn't look as good to me. NVIDIA though, I like this setup. It looks like it's set to rally into earnings. And usually the catalysts do go in the direction of markets. So maybe we get good earnings and NVIDIA can carry markets here tomorrow. Moving over to Amazon and Google here, we did get a good push on both of these as well, 1.44 and 1.57% respectively. Amazon getting back above the 255 level after jumping down to the 21 VWAP, hitting those levels and then rallying up. Closed above the body of yesterday's candle, should see a slight continuation here. Based on this, you should see a push up into this trend line, up into this level around 212.25. Momentum didn't go with it. Same there for RSIs, everything else. Still below the SMA, but has a little bit of room to go. And then Google did exactly what we thought it was going to do, minus the gap down part. So we gapped down, then rallied, pushed right to my level, 179.42. I did not take this trade, unfortunately, which is super upsetting because it did exactly what we thought it was going to, hit the target in one day. Now it's above the level, looking for a push to these previous highs here, or potentially that 185.22 level. Momentum stepping up. Want to see it get above the RSI here. Could be a little bit of a pitfall if it touches that and rejects, but for right now, price action looks quite good. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples still showing strength, up a little bit after hours. Need to see it break this trend line here. Once it does, I think we're going to push up to this 84.50 area, in my opinion. Looks good. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Discretionary is very slightly positive. Gapped lower, overtook this previous low here, but still held the level on a closing basis. Momentum fading, RSI fading. Still below the SMA there, so doesn't look super great. Maybe this is a bull flag potentially, kind of grinding lower, not having these major dips yet. If this continues through here, maybe we see a nice little push, but for right now, it doesn't look super great. Moving over to oil and gas and real estate. Oil and gas down 0.64, still struggling at that 200 SMA. So we gapped down, rallied back to it, closed below it, falling a little bit after hours, momentum fading. RSI still holding up okay. We'll see how this plays here right at the level. And then real estate, I just wanted to highlight this because it continues to hold a solid base here off that 42.84 level. This is the Spider Real Estate Trust. Now this looks like it's going to push here a little bit more, at least to the 55 EMA, which is about another 40 cents. But realistically, I think this is going to go to that 44.76 level. Really not a super great trading vehicle, but for you longer term dividend investors, this continues to look very, very good. Pulled back in time, held a solid base at this level. If it starts to push through here, I think there's going to be some more upside, start to hit these trends on the retouch up in that 48, 49 area. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, these have actually hovered fairly well. You can see RIOT 3 days in a row of this same kind of flat price action right on top of the VWAP there. Holding up okay after this really good extension, rejected from the level. Now this is holding a higher low at support. I would be trading off of VWAP here at that 1180 level. As long as we can hold above that, we're in good shape. And then we should be looking for a push back to that 14 area. And then Mara here, you can see 1878 is the level. We broke below it there yesterday. Monday, back above it, rallying after hours. This looks good for a potential higher low setup here. Big push up, retracement, full round trip of that move. Higher low setup, push to the level here around that 24.50 area is what I would be looking for. I like this setup pretty well. I think I'm going to move this here. If we can get through this kind of consolidation of wicks at that 2050 level, I think it'll probably push that 24 area. Moving over to Breadth. Breadth was not a fan of the move today, so markets were generally positive, but Breadth did not hold up with that style move. So again, definitely some concerns underneath the hood here. You can see rally up, test the region, break down. We got a continuation lower, hit my level 51.75, hit the 21 EMA, momentum still fading. RSI is back below the SMA, so need to hold up here if it's going to do it. Otherwise, we're probably going to see markets kind of crumble underneath this breadth problem. And then similarly here, 50-day, big gap down off of that 21 EMA, momentum still fading, RSI back below the SMA, back below that 52.81 level. And the next target would be the trend here around 49.92, which has been the same region here. And then looking at that next target would be the low from this consolidation in May and June, which would be that 40 level here. So breadth continues to kind of crumble underneath markets, even with the up moves that we saw today. Moving over to the dollar, dollar continues to fall just slightly through some wicks up here. It's falling into the end of the session, still lower here on the Tuesday. I still think we're going to hit that 9 EMA at 105.9. Then we'll see if that holds. 105.5 is the next level. Momentum fading. RSI, we're just barely below the SMA. So again, still showing a little bit of pullback here. 3 down days in a row. Usually you start to see a little bit of a pullback from there if it's going to do it. But for right now, it does look a little bit bearish, pushing towards this 200 here on the hourly chart. That's at 106.36. Moving over to bonds, definitely some mixed markets here on bonds. You can see bonds showing a lot of strength along with equities, which is interesting considering what we just saw on breadth. So interesting to see it, but bonds look good here. J&K continuation higher, headed towards that 55 EMA. Want to see it break through here. This looks like a pretty solid low, higher low now. So you should be looking for a higher high off of this somewhere in here, potentially at the 97.69 level. A little bit of risk on here on J&K. And then looking at TLT, you can see gap up, doji, momentum, bullish, RSI still bullish. I still think this base is kind of in here. I think the low's probably in around that 89.50 level. What are we going to see off of that? Still kind of hard to say. It's been really choppy in this area. You can see we've been grinding lower since mid-October and we are still here mid-November. It is a little bit lower, but not by much. I still think this is going to kind of bottom out in a bottoming formation, round up here, and then we should see a push back to that 100 level in my opinion. Moving over to the volatility index, you can see again another big wick, another positive day, momentum still swinging, RSI back above the SMA. So the VIX says markets should be going down, at least in the short term, but we got a higher VIX and a higher market, not super common, definitely a warning sign. Could be elevating because of the NVDA earnings and how big of a piece of the market that is, but again, warning signs here on the VIX. Just missed my level, which was the 1850 level and that 55 EMA at 1837. Touched the 21, rejected from there, still in the same consolidation range. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I did make a little bit of money, and honestly, I think I made a little bit more. You can see these Q's positions are a little weird here. The shares are bearish, but the calls are also bearish somehow. You can see it's up after hours, so this really should be in a little bit better position. I sold puts here, and that did cover all of those losses, plus a little bit. So net, I think I was up like $40 based off what it's saying here, but I think I should be in better shape. Even with this $130 loss, I should be in better shape. So we'll see. Overall, still positive on the day, and I jumped back into my regular positions because the price action at the end of the session did look very good, and the credits here were also quite good here. So covered call on the IWM 231 for 71 cents, positive there. Again, the shares are +7, but somehow the calls are -19. This should be a bullish position. So weird to see that. Must be reacting to the after hours price action. Russell is up about 50 cents, and then the Qs, same thing, up about 30 to 40 cents, somewhere in there. So overall, this should be a little bit more positive, and I am relatively bullish going into tomorrow's session with that low/double bottom setup, looking for a break above those levels, but I am still a little bit weary of what we saw on breadth. So being cautious, but moderately bullish. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the charts. How are you balancing out the move that we're seeing in bonds and breadth and equities? And what do you think we're going to see for the NVIDIA earnings tomorrow? Definitely let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.